Good evening, hockey fans. Welcome back into the neutral zone here on IE Sports Radio. 2 games are down in the Stanley Cup Final. Are we going to go any past 2 more to go? This show is supposed to be going on next week, Tuesday. That would be Game 5. Are we going to have to reschedule, or will we be talking about a Las Vegas sweep at that point? After the first 2 games of the series, it certainly feels like a sweep is on the table. Who do we like as early favorites for winner of the Conn Smythe now that we're halfway through the Stanley Cup Final? Is Bobrovsky going to stay in net for the Panthers? Lots of questions as we're a couple games into the Stanley Cup Final. Will we have any answers? Plus, there's some military connections going on between these teams. We'll be discussing that a little bit. But it's not going to be all the Stanley Cup Final, no. We've got some other stuff to go through as well. Our favorite team to lovingly tease and pick on, they're still homeless. Are they going to not be homeless anytime soon? We certainly hope so. We'll talk about the Arizona Coyotes and their vain search for a new stadium. All that and more coming up here on the Neutral Zone. Buckle it on up. Don't get checked in the boards. Of course, we want to stay out of the penalty box. Let's go. And hello and good evening, everyone. I am Adam Karnick. Welcome back into the Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Well, you never know what kind of a Stanley Cup Final you're going to get, especially when it's between 2 teams that have never won the title before. But suffice to say, one team has definitely looked superior over the other in the first 2 games. We will be breaking down the Las Vegas Golden Knights and their just total domination of the Florida Panthers through the first 2 games in this series. We're going to have a lot to go through. We got to discuss what's happened in the first 2 games, what, if anything, might change now that the series is going to flip and we're going to head down to South Beach, down to Florida. Is anything going to change? Do the Panthers stand any chance of getting back into this thing, or is this series all but done? And we're going to be talking some non-Stanley Cup Final. The Arizona Coyotes are still, basically homeless. So we'll have some fun discussing that as well. Before we get any too much further, though, we, of course, need to take care of our homework here on IE Sports Radio. IE Sports Radio is available for you on all the major social platforms, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. You can find us there. Search at IE Sports Radio or go to our website, iesportsradio.com. For the last 9 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you a shout-out on every one of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. Shout out now our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised, Emlos Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. We mentioned how IE Sports Radio is available for you on all the major social platforms. The show is available for you on Twitter. Just search at IESR Neutral Zone. You can follow along with me on Twitter. I am at Adam_Karnick. Or the guy you really should be following along is the true star of this show. I think at this point I am just a guest star occasional speaker anymore. The guy you should be following is the one, the only Zach Puplis, who you follow on Twitter at _Puplis. Zach, how are you doing tonight, my good man?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Adam?
I'm here. It's been what, a month I think since I did an episode here.
Something like that. Wow.
I think I'm just relegated to guest star status at this point.
Right.
No, but thank you for holding down the fort the last few weeks. It was one thing after another, but hopefully things are calming down a little bit, and I'll actually be able to do like more than one show in a row. Hopefully.
Of course. No worries.
But now we've got for ourselves a little bit of a conundrum now at this week, and I think this is as good a spot as any to start because I know we've already talked about it a little bit, that Game 5 is slated for next Tuesday night, and we're supposed to be doing a show next Tuesday night, because that's what we do. But it would be right in the middle of the second period. Are we going to have a Game 5 at this point, Zach? After watching the first two games, I'm not convinced that there's going to be a Game 5 in this series.
Right. Wow. I'm always one for sweeps. Anytime you get out the brooms, you might as well. But no, I think Florida's they're gonna come back, especially with home field advantage, and they're gonna make a series of it, and it'll probably go 6 games maybe.
All right. Well, let's rewind a bit there, and we'll touch that subject here again in a minute. Also, thank you to Taryn Rodriguez for joining us in the chat room. He's also of the feeling that Vegas is just too good for the Panthers, and he's already got a nomination for Dum Dum of the Week over on the SoCal Supreme. You'll hear that Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. I don't know if you saw this, Zach, the Golden Knights fan that got absolutely stiff-armed by the Panthers reporter live on the air. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, I will send it to you. Samantha Rivera was doing a live on-air report for I forget who she's affiliated with. I'll have to look it up. But she was doing a live on-air report, and there was a Golden Knights fan that was just trying to jump in front of her and get on the camera, and she literally, nope. I don't care who you're a fan of. I'm working here, and shoved him out of the way. It was a fantastic stiff arm. All the hockey and football guys were getting on, complimenting her on her form. It was fantastic.
Did her best Heisman impersonation, huh?
It was a very mobile, a very mobile Heisman impersonation. She had to wrestle him out of position. It was very well done. She stood her ground very well.
Wow. No, I did not hear about that.
Oh, I'll tweet it over to you.
Wow, that's so crazy.
Well, let's start with the first two games. I mean, Saturday night, game 1, and the game actually started fairly well for Florida. A shorthanded goal to open up the scoring, and Florida gets up on a 1-0 lead. And then after that, it stayed tight through the first two periods. It didn't get out of hand, really, until the third period.
Yeah. Tied 2-2, and then won 3 straight goals to Vegas Knights to have them win 5-2, and then another 4 to open up game 2 last night.
Yeah, it was game 2. That was a whooping last night. I mean, that was just flat out a beatdown on the part of Vegas. Oh, and thank you, Taryn. CBS Miami, Samantha Rivera, reporter for CBS Miami, so covering the the Panthers there for CBS Miami. I thought it was a CBS affiliate, but I didn't want to say it and be wrong.
Sure.
But what are your thoughts through the first two games?
Offense, and more offense.
Yeah.
Wow. Vegas is definitely showing their depth because, it's not just one scorer, the whole team scoring. And they just seem like they're the varsity and Florida's the JV right now. Like a whole nother level. I
was reading it earlier this morning. Of course, Vegas has scored 12 goals to this point, outscoring Florida 12-4 at this point. Of Vegas's 12 goals, they've had 9 different players score those 12 goals, which is either a Stanley Cup Final record or it's tied with one of Gretzky's Edmonton Oilers teams for most players to score a goal through that. I mean, when you're getting mentioned in the same breath as some of those Oilers teams, you're doing something right.
Yeah. Well, Jonathan Marchessault almost got a hat trick last night, and that hasn't happened in forever.
He's got to be a front runner for Conn Smythe right now, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. You talked about 12 goals. It tied for the most through the first two games of the Stanley Cup Finals, last achieved in 1982 by the New York Islanders versus Vancouver.
Wow. 40 years ago,
Yeah. Crazy.
And last night, it wasn't even close. It just was so lopsided last night. The first goal was 7 minutes into the game, and it was you just felt like it was the end of the first period almost. It just felt like it was over.
Yeah. Your last hat trick of the Stanley Cup Finals was coincidentally back in '96, the last time the Panthers were in the Cup Finals.
I'm going to guess it was not a Panther that did that, though.
They mentioned the name, but I didn't catch it.
Considering that Colorado swept Florida in that series, I'm going to guess it was not a Florida Panther that got the hat trick.
Yeah, sure. Good point. And that, oh my gosh, that one tweet about Canada was so savage. We thought people were salty about the Panthers making it to the Cup Finals. There's going to be so much salt produced from Vegas winning the Cup, if it continues as where we are right now, that it'll keep the streets of Canada clean for years.
Yeah. Well, no matter who wins this series, you're going to have some hockey purists who get upset. Because for a lot of hockey purists, hockey shouldn't be played south of Lake Michigan, I think.
Yeah.
Gary, Indiana should be the southern tip of the NHL.
Yeah.
And then just draw a line from there.
Places that don't get snow shouldn't have a hockey team, I think their take on it.
Denver gets a lot of snow, and it's not, it's not always cold in Colorado, but I digress.
Yeah, well, last night you're absolutely right. They said that it was the southernmost matchup in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you get Miami in there, that's gonna bound to happen,
right?
I think the most extreme example of this is if we wound up Miami versus Winnipeg.
Oh my gosh! Right?
Lord. That would be very extreme. Something else through the first two games, as we're talking about Vegas and Florida, the Panthers have been really undisciplined through these first two games. I mean, you're talking, I want to get the exact numbers right here, but you had 4 power plays for Vegas last night. Excuse me. Couldn't get to the mute button fast enough. And then, the 7 power plays in game 1. We've had 2 major scrums already, 1 in each game. Is this deliberate on Florida? Is this their game plan? Are they just wanting to try to disrupt Vegas here by doing this? What the heck here?
Um, wow. So that first hit by Matthew Tkachuk on Jack Eichel, it felt like it could have been. Like that they needed a spark, and that was his way of trying to get them a spark. But as the game went on, it was just like I tweeted, I felt like Oprah, and you get a 10-minute minor, and you get a 10-minute minor, and you get a 10
and you get a game misconduct, and you get a game misconduct, and everybody's off to the locker room. Go!
Right. And it just felt like, okay, their discipline was just going down the drain. And the guy on the broadcast even said, he says, I'd be surprised if there's even any hot water left for the rest of the guys when they get back to the locker room.
No kidding. Yeah, when you're getting all those, 10-minute majors and game misconducts, and I did read a quote from Jack Eichel. He was talking about, one of the hits that he took, and it was, I know he was trying to rile me. I got up, realized I was okay, and just moved on.
It backfired, yeah.
Yeah. And let's face it, Vegas did come into this series with an underperforming power play unit, so maybe they were banking on that, but I mean, you give them 11 chances in 2 games, they're going to capitalize on that.
Oh yeah, and like we said, it's not just your typical 2-minute penalty. 10 minutes, 12 minutes, that's like a whole period or like a half a period.
Right, exactly. Yeah, even if these were all just 2-minute minors, that's 22 minutes in penalties. You've only played 2 games. That's over a period. You're talking 1/6 of the hockey. Yeah. You've been playing a man down. Even if Bobrovsky was perfect and didn't give up a goal, that's 22 minutes where you're not allowing yourself to go play offense and do what you do best.
Yeah. They had a stat at the end of the game last night that I didn't quite understand, but it was PIM. I'm guessing something about penalties in minutes or something. Does that make sense?
Penalties in minutes.
Okay. But yeah, I think it was like double what the Vegas Knights had.
Yeah, and it's just that's the lack of discipline that they've been showing to this point, that they're just Florida's just playing very undisciplined to this point, whether it's Tkachuk or whether it's not always just winding up with penalties too. One of the goals last night, I have to remind myself of which one it was, because again, there were just so many last night, but it was in the second period where Vegas was able to carry the puck down below the goal line and then set up a perfect pass for a one-timer right in front of Bobrovsky. There's nothing he could do. There's 3 Panthers right there, and none of them are trying to approach the puck, just letting Vegas carry it around below the goal line. It's just not very smart hockey that we're seeing from Florida through these first 2 games.
Yeah. Well, people on Twitter were all over the game or all over the refs, I guess, because but that's a bunch of BS calls against Florida at the end, and and the one little clip that I sent you with him, so Tkachuk was in the huddle with the refs and then some Golden Knights players, and he just taps the guy's stick, and it's 10 minutes. I'm like, really?
Yup.
Like I just liked how petty of emotion it was, but that's 10 minutes for just that. Like I get if you're going to be in an all-out fight in a brawl, that'd be 10 minutes. But I mean, some of the fights aren't even 10 minutes. Like if you get it, you go punch somebody, it might be like a 2-minute or something. How did he get a 10-minute game misconduct for just tapping the guy's stick out of his hand?
I think some of it. Well, obviously you're just doing it out of frustration. You're doing it out of you're frustrated because your team's not doing well. You're also trying to spark something out of the other player by knocking his stick out of his hand.
Sure.
And it's a little bit kind of like a delay a game situation too, where you're, the ref's asking for the football and instead you throw it away just to slow everything down. So, and it's also possible that there could have been words exchanged there too that obviously we're not hearing on the television broadcast, but the ref's right there and hearing it loud as day.
Yeah,
so it could be one of those situations too, kind of like I happened to be doing a call of the Cubs game last night, and the Cubs manager got tossed very early in the game for something that seemed very innocuous. Well, it was a conversation he was having from the dugout with the home plate umpire. So it could be something like that too, where it doesn't look like much, but we're not hearing what's going on too, and that could lead to it.
True.
So, but still, it's Kachuk, you're the leader of the team. You're a huge reason for why Florida's there. You need to be focusing that energy onto the ice, not just getting mad and trying to goad Vegas into making some kind of a mistake.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, the series is shifting to Miami. Let's talk about what the Panthers can do to try to make this seem a little different going forward. What can they do to extend this series and force this thing back to Vegas, if anything? You are listening to The Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo Sports with a Twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
What up, Boston sports fans? This is Mikey Two Guns here, your host of Our Bleepin' City, airing every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Please join me. We'll talk everything Boston sports, all the local teams, college teams. I'm even down to talk MMA, boxing, whatever you guys want. So join me every Wednesday night, 7 to 8 p.m. Chime in with your questions on the chat, tweet the show. We'll even have call-ins. I can't wait to hear from you guys. This is going to be a lot of fun. So once again, it's Our Bleepin' City. I am your host, Mikey Two Guns, every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. See you soon, people.
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right. Welcome to AZ Sports Daily. I'm your host, Kiernan Daly, bringing the heat to Arizona sports. There's no discrimination here. We're going to talk about every sports team, professional and college. The show is all about you, the listener. I'm here to entertain you. Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here? It's going to be fun, high energy. You may not agree with what I say. That's okay. Let me hear you. Let's talk about it. Join me every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on AZ Sports Daily. That's AZ Sports, D-A-L-E-Y, and at IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on The Defining Moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
And welcome back into the neutral zone, everybody. I'm your host, Adam Karnick, along with Zach Pupless. So before we dive into the changing setting in the Stanley Cup Final, Taryn asked in the chat about the new Ducks head coach, so we want to get into that. 60-year-old Greg Cronin. So, Zach, I know we've talked a lot about how there's a lot of the more things change, the more they stay the same at the head coaching position in the NHL, that a lot of guys are retreads, rehires. They just bounce around from team to team. That's not the case here with Cronin. Even though he's 60 years old, this is his first NHL head coaching job. He's been head coach of the American Hockey League affiliate of the Colorado Avalanche the last 5 years. He's been an assistant in the NHL and an associate coach with Toronto and the Islanders. He spent 5 years with the Maple Leafs from 98 to 2003, and then 7 years with the Islanders from 2011 to 2018. But still, this is his first time in the NHL. Quote, "I'm excited and honored to be named head coach of the Anaheim Ducks. This team has a fantastic future ahead, and I'm very grateful to owner Henry Samueli family and general manager Pat Verbeek for entrusting me with this amazing opportunity." And I wanted to get another little quote from him here. "I'm one of these guys. I believe in innovation. I believe in change. You've got to have a healthy balance, but it starts with your habits. And if your practice habits aren't good, they're going to follow you right into the game." So, Greg Cronin, new head coach for Anaheim. I don't have a problem with it. I appreciate that it's somebody who is qualified, but also isn't a retread, And it's not like this is the first team that looked to hire him. He was a finalist for the Bruins job last year before Jim Montgomery got it. So,
yeah, you're absolutely right. Coming from an AHL affiliate, it pretty much sounds like the Jeff Blashill hire that the Red Wings had before hiring Derek Lalonde. Jeff Blashill came from the AHL affiliate Grand Rapids Griffins. And if everybody in the league's always hiring retreads, then it doesn't give anybody new a chance. So, props to them for, thinking outside the box, at least a little,
Yeah, I mean,
and hiring somebody who's not just a retread.
Yeah, there's a reason that the guy who got fired. There's a reason that the veteran coach is out there sometimes.
Yeah. The Ducks general manager, Pat Verbeek, said in a statement, "While we did cast a wide net in searching for the next head coach, it became clear to me that Greg would be the ideal fit for the position. Being a young team, I felt we needed a teacher of the finer points of the game and someone who has worked extensively over time with talented young players, helping them develop into successful NHL players. Greg has done all of that and more, and we are excited to name him head coach of the Anaheim Ducks." The Ducks also have the number 2 pick in the NHL draft, where they could select University of Michigan center and Hobey Baker winner, I think, as well, Adam Fantilli, to become part of their future.
Yeah, and Fantilli would be a nice addition. Whoever gets him, that should be a nice consolation prize there in Anaheim. It's not Connor Bedard, unfortunately, but it's not a bad consolation prize in that respect. So, yeah, I mean, it's not like Colorado hasn't had good young talent come up in the last few years. Nathan McKinnon, for example. Now, McKinnon, I think, has been in the... Yeah, his NHL career is longer than 5 years at this point, right?
Yeah,
I think so. So, but still, the Colorado organization's a good place to be coming from. They've had some good talent come up through there. I like the hire overall. It's a nice hire. It's a good hire for Anaheim. I don't know that it'll necessarily be... Cronin might turn into being a bridge guy that, help them through the rebuild a little bit, but might not be the guy that'll take them to the championship, but it's a good, solid hire. Good way to get him started anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so let's get back to the Stanley Cup. Obviously, Vegas dominated the first 2 games. Now we're down in South Florida. So the scenery changes. You go from the wild nightlife of Las Vegas to the wild nightlife of Miami. What What, if anything, do you think we'll see differently now that we're down in Florida? Oh, as Zach is thinking.
Florida will get off to a better start. Huh? Can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened. I think that Florida might get off to better starts now that they're playing at home in front of their home crowd. We'll see what happens with Bobrovsky versus Lyon. Lyon actually started their run in the playoffs. So
I'd be shocked if it's not Bobrovsky in net for Game 3.
Well, I think, probably just because he's the more trusted older statesman, like.
Yeah. Well, it just until this series, he's been so amazingly good for them. I mean, they're not in the Cup Final if Bobrovsky wasn't in net for them. It's that simple to me, anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm with you. Tkachuk might want to get into fights to get a spark underneath everybody, or he's talking big words. Oh, we're confident and we're physical and so on. But I'm with you. Like, until he proves it, like, buddy, you got to put points on the board. Like, that's the most important part. But so until he proves it, he's talking the talk, but he's not walking the walk at the moment.
Yeah. To me, the one thing that I could see making a difference is Florida does get the advantage now of the last change, being the home team. We talked about how Vegas is so deep. They've got 9 guys that have scored goals already just 2 games into this series. I don't know that Florida's defense really can roll with all 4 of those lines, but at least now that they're at home, Florida will get the opportunity to line up the defensive pairings the way they want to go against the Vegas forwards. I don't know how big of a difference it'll make, but at least it'll be Florida having the last action instead of Vegas getting to see, oh, there's the defensive pairing you have out there. All right, Eichel's line, let's go. This is the pairing. This is the matchup we like,
So that's not like the last one in the game. That's saying that every time the 2 teams go out there, they get the last opportunity to change any kind of thing that they want to change. Or is that what you're saying?
Right, exactly. Okay. So if Vegas, if Vegas throws different forwards out there, then Florida has the chance then to throw guys over the boards as well to counteract that. So
whereas
that's
go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, whereas when they're in Vegas, it's the other way. It's Vegas gets the chance to react to what Florida's doing with line changes. So
you got Tkachuk and Verhaeghe out there. Oh, I want to put Marchessault and Stone on there.
Right, exactly. You get to respond, and now it'll be Florida's turn to. Again, I don't know how much of a difference it'll make since Vegas has 4 lines that are just rolling right now, but at least Florida will have the chance to say, well, this is the defensive pairing we wanted out there against them, as opposed to Vegas saying, and these are the forwards we want out against that particular set of defensive men. We like this matchup for scoring,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. On the note of Florida getting out to a better start, this is from ESPN. Panthers have rarely looked rattled this postseason. First period of Game 2 was one of those moments where they did. Panthers were passive until the final few minutes of the frame. Then they tried to get something going on the power play. Ultimately, they gave up 2 goals, one right after their man advantage, and looked deflated. It makes you wonder how resilient Florida can continue to be as the series rolls on. Panthers haven't faced a ton of adversity since the first-round series against the Bruins, and even getting 5 shots on their first power play try wasn't enough to get them on the score sheet early. Instead, they were playing from behind again. They'll hope for a better start in Game 3.
Yeah, and 5 shots on their power play. That brings us into something we didn't discuss in the first one. Good evening, Mike Pett. Mike Pett jumping into the chat. this is the most neutral he has felt about the Stanley Cup in some time. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of former Capitals in there to be talking about. So instead, we've got some of the original misfits in Las Vegas who are just absolutely making a mockery of this whole tournament, which is amazing. But one guy we haven't talked about at all is Adin Hill. Adin Hill is having a remarkable Cup final. At this point, I don't think he would be in line for the Conn Smythe at this point. I think right now it's Marchessault's hands down for Vegas. It's Jonathan Marchessault's certainly, but as I'm pulling up the stats to remind myself here, Hill has he had 29 saves last night and followed that up with, after he had made 33 saves in game one. That's 62, assuming I can do math, that's 62 saves over these first two games. He has been damn impressive.
Yeah, this tail end of this article. Task ahead for Florida. The Panthers now have two hills to conquer. Vegas goalie Adin Hill, who's clearly locked in and tending some of the best goal in his NHL career, and the hill that is the 2-0 series deficit.
Boo. Boo.
Yeah. Teams with the 2-0 series lead in the Stanley Cup playoffs hold a series record of 347-55, which is 86.3%. In the 23 postseason, excuse me, teams are 5-1 in that situation. In the Stanley Cup final, the hill becomes an even steeper climb. Teams that take a 2-0 final lead have won the Cup 48 out of 53 times. When you factor in the Golden Knights went up 2-0 on home ice, that hill starts to resemble Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah. The stat I saw is it's basically in the Cup final, if you're up 2-0, you win 9 times out of 10. And if you had home ice advantage and went up 2-0, 93 times out of 100, you're winning.
Yeah, 93%. It was 38 out of 41 teams that have won the first two games of the Stanley Cup final on home ice went on to win the series. That said, there's two teams in the salary cap era from 05 to 06 and on that have rallied to win after dropping the first two games of their series on the road. Can you guess who they are?
Is this just Stanley Cup or is this playoffs in general?
Just Stanley Cup. Just the matchup, yeah.
Down 0-2. Mike chiming in. So you're saying there's a chance?
Right.
I'd say there's a snowball's chance in Miami.
Right.
Oh man, who is down 0-2 in the Cup final and turn around? Well, okay. I can think of the team that was on the wrong end of that at least once, Vancouver.
Yeah, it was Vancouver.
The second time or the first time?
The second time was the second instance I'm referring to was Vancouver in 2011.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm thinking that was Vancouver's second time in the final in the Cap era. That was the fans did not take to that well either. That was
the Bruins. The Bruins were down 2-0, and they came back and beat Vancouver in the 2011 playoffs. The other one happened to my Red Wings into 2009.
Really? Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Pittsburgh was down 0-2, and they came back and won it in 7.
I knew that was a 7-game series. I didn't realize Detroit jumped out to the 2-0 start in that.
Well, that vaguely rings a bell because I remember feeling pretty confident going into that one after Detroit was up 2-0.
Yeah, apparently Sidney Crosby had other ideas.
Yeah.
He's good for that,
Yeah, a little bit. So the climb will be arduous for Florida, but the hill isn't insurmountable apparently.
Yeah. You can't be spending 22 minutes in the penalty box over these next two games.
Absolutely.
If that was a deliberate strategy on Florida's part, they've got to change it. They got to drop that right now. You got to just play on the ice. Don't try to rattle Vegas by getting under their skin like that. That's something Florida's got to change that right now. They've got to play better discipline. Just play hockey instead of trying to turn it into a chess match,
Yeah, definitely. You talked about Aiden Hill, who's going to be a free agent. Somebody else who's going to be a free agent is Barbashev.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, so he's a 27-year-old pending unrestricted free agent. Has likely earned himself a raise or two from the year.
He gonna get paid?
Yeah, the way they describe it, he's coming like an absolute wrecking ball.
Yeah.
Cue the Miley Cyrus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he'll be set up nicely. Got to finish the job though. Got to finish the job first.
For sure, yeah. Oh, and then the last thing, the Knights' impressive depth, like we talked about. How do the Golden Knights keep scoring goals at such a high rate? Well, it goes back to keeping those contributions from throughout their whole lineup. Knights coach Bruce Cassidy talked about this after game 1 when Shea Theodore, Zach Whitecloud scored. He said those goals were examples of the secondary and tertiary offense the Golden Knights need. Cassidy and the Golden Knights saw it again in game 2 with another defenseman, Alec Martinez. Brett Howden as well. He got 2 goals last night. Martinez
a
goal.
lot of the bottom of the line guys.
Yeah. Martinez's goal also gave the Golden Knights the distinction of being tied with the Kraken for the most individual goal scorers in 2023 postseason with 18. Yeah, the Kraken were super deep too.
You know what's scary if you're Florida? I was just real quickly. Vegas has had 9 players score goals. You know who's not on that list?
Barkov?
Jack Eichel. Eichel doesn't have a goal yet in the Stanley Cup Final.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Okay. Yeah, that's scary because when he turns it on, yeah, look out.
Yeah. They've had 12 goals from 9 different goal scorers. And, I mean, Eichel's getting points. He had, 2 assists last night, 3 assists last night, something like that, including one right after he took that blow from Tkachuk. Got up, made sure he was okay. Next shift out. Oh, yeah, here you go. Perfect pass. Goal.
Right.
There's me, just Jack Eichel doing Jack Eichel things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was the guy on Twitter. That's why he was having a fit about it, because he's like, if that was anybody else, that would have been a legal hit because, and Wayne Gretzky even talked about it in the intermission. He's like, he's got to remember to keep his head up, blah, 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 blah. But the guy on Twitter was thinking like conspiracy theory thoughts because, it was Jack Eichel and because he hurt his neck, we don't want to have him hurt his neck again. So therefore, even though it was legal, Matthew Tkachuk is going to get a penalty.
I think the fact that, Matthew Tkachuk basically tried to kill a guy on the ice, that kind of hurts Tkachuk right there. So,
Yeah. My thought is it's more player safety than anything.
Yeah. You go right ahead and have a conspiracy theory there if you want to. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but yeah.
Right.
I don't think you need to look too deep for why that was called a penalty.
Right. Side note, I just looked it up. The last time the Canadian team won the Cup, 1993 Montreal Canadiens. It's been 30 years.
Yep. And now that Toronto's finally won a playoff series, maybe, but, between Edmonton flat out refusing to have a goalie and Toronto just being allergic to winning series in the playoffs, I don't know that we're going to see that change anytime soon.
Yeah. And Edmonton is Lincoln Riley. He's just too loyal to his defensive coordinator, Alex Grinch. And that's always their Achilles heel every year. Like they put up offense, awesome numbers on offense, but their defense is crap.
And now I know some of it's they don't have a lot of money in the bank to go get a goalie, but if they could just have somebody that could reliably stop the puck. But that's getting a little off track. I know you had something on Marchessault, our potential Conn Smythe winner here.
Sure.
Did you want to
sure.
talk about that a little bit? Good evening, Cale Henderson, by the way. He's going to be coming up right after us, talking all kinds of Vegas Golden Knights hockey.
Well, howdy, Kale. Wrong one here. Okay. So, Marchessault, he was actually, he used to play for the Florida Panthers, so it's his, he's facing his former team in these Stanley Cup Finals. The Florida Panthers are the team that tossed him into the 2017 expansion draft, resulting in him becoming a Golden Knight. Quote,
Fools.
You know what? Yeah, right. You know what? I thought they were going to protect me. I was surprised by the decision. But, that's just the way she goes sometimes. Keeps you honest, Marchessault said. Dale Talon, the GM of the Florida Panthers at the time, he handed Vegas the 2 foundational pieces in the 2017 expansion draft. Marchessault was coming off a 30-goal season in just his second full NHL campaign. Now at 32 years old, Marchessault has scored 348 points, including 150 goals in 432 games with Vegas. Panthers then also traded Riley Smith to Vegas for a 2018 fourth-round pick. Riley now has 286 points in 399 games with Vegas. Talon justified it at the time by saying, "You win championships with defense first."
Oh, God. Dale Talon's everybody's 45-year-old dad.
Is that... Well, no. I mean, just look back at Game 1 and Game 2. Was that foreshadowing?
Sure, you do, Dale.
They clearly weren't playing with offense for Game 1 and 2. Ooh.
They weren't playing with a lot of things in Game 1 and 2.
Yeah. Like half their bench.
Or any of their scores.
Oh, burn. Marchessault, like many of the Golden Misfits from Vegas' inaugural season, played with a chip on his shoulder about the Panthers' decision. While it still surprises him, he said he has moved on. Marchessault says, "It's a long time ago. It's water under the bridge. I was disappointed at the time, but that's like 6 years ago now, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me anymore. I know it's my old team, but good for them. I don't worry too much about them anymore. I worry about our team." Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, 2 cup finals in 6 years and all those goals. Yeah, I wouldn't be worrying about it too much either if I was Marchessault. Sounds like they did him a favor.
Right. Unleashed his potential, yeah. Marchessault and Smith have discussed their Panthers past together. Quote, "We've done good things there and good things here, and we're not going to be satisfied with anything else other than winning it all. That's why we're still here." And lastly, he feels the Panthers this year are very similar to Vegas in 2018 when they made the run to the Cup Final in the inaugural season, kind of like a Cinderella story.
And now this is just 2 games into these cup finals. They've already, more Stanley Cup final victories than they had in the last time around. So,
yeah.
And Florida's 6 games in is still looking for its first cup final victory game.
Ouch. Brutal.
I seriously, after coming out of these first 2 games, I genuinely think at this point that we're going to see a sweep.
Okay. I'm always for that, but anytime when there's these or in the NBA finals, I got to go with what my mom says. Well, of course they're going to go to 7. If they go to 7 games, they get more money.
I mean, there is that, but Taryn's saying he'll give Florida a game. Maybe they've got to really fix the discipline. That's the part to me, that's the biggest, and not just the penalties, but the lack of defensive awareness in their own zone, where they're just letting guys carry the puck 150 feet down the ice and then just watching as somebody gets in front of the net. And Bobrovsky's got to make a brilliant, amazing save.
Yeah, you did mention that earlier with the, 3 different people that were just standing there watching.
Yeah, shoot, they may as well have paid tickets at that point. They were just watching. And then, oh, look, the puck wound up in the back of the net, and Bobrovsky's left like, hello, guys, hello.
Right.
Now, Vegas has solved Bobrovsky, I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
Taryn wanted to know, but if Vegas sweeps, what will Adam and Zach talk about in the coming weeks? Oh, we'll come up with all kinds of stuff. We have ideas.
Arizona Coyote expansion location or relocation locations. The trend of fans throwing things on the ice and how it differs from city to city. Octopi, rats, catfish.
Yeah,
flamingos last night.
Yeah, boy, that is something we didn't talk about. The Flying Flamingos. You're right.
We can. It's good off-season fodder because we could do a deep dive into it. It's going to be very scientific. And
there we go. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is a professional tease right there. A deep dive into why we throw flamingos on the ice in Vegas.
And octopi on the ice in Detroit.
I'm ready to just call the segment "Why Hockey Fans Are Weird and Why I Love Them."
And why the one fan shipped a catfish to the commissioner.
God. Nashville's a special place, folks. If you've never been, it's a great, great city. They're kind of special.
Only kinda?
Only kinda. Real quick from Cale Henderson here before we actually toss the puck over to him to finish out the night for us here. He says, no way Tkachuk plays in Game 3, right? 2 ejections in 2 games? Guy is reckless. I haven't read anything yet that he's potentially going to be facing discipline and not be there for Game 3. And if you're Florida, you need him there. You have a sit down, you have a conversation with him, and you tell him you got to cut that out. But Florida's certainly not benching him. That would have to come down from the league, right?
Yeah, they need to exactly. They need to sit down with him, tell him to cut the crap and just play, just score, be the player you've been the whole rest of these playoffs. Like, how incredible was he in the not semifinals, in the Eastern Conference Finals against Carolina, winning that game with like 4 seconds left on the clock. Like,
which won? He won 3 of them that way for him in that series.
Well, yeah, overtime or right at the end, or it's like a hockey equivalent of a buzzer beater, basically.
yeah. So they need a come to Jesus moment there with Tkachuk, but unless the league cracks down and says he's not playing, which I haven't seen, that doesn't mean that they're not discussing it. But unless the league comes down with it, there's no way Florida's sitting him down.
If the team did, they'd shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, they would be waving the white flag if they did that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. The horn has sounded. That means we got to make way here. Big thanks to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised, Emlos Great, Key to the Gate, and our anonymous supporter. Thank you, of course, to Larry B., the czar and overlord here at All Things IE Sports Radio. All the hard work he's doing behind the scenes. Lots of new shows here on the station. You heard some of the drops there earlier. We've got Boston covered now. We've got a new and revamped Defining Moment. We even got a show that talks about Arizona now, so we have somebody else to discuss the Arizona Coyotes with. Thank you to Taryn and Mike Pat and Cale Henderson for hopping into the chat room with us and joining us tonight. Stick around right after us. Cale Henderson will be on talking all things Las Vegas Golden Knights. He's going to be pumped. I guarantee that. He was excited as all get out after Game 2 last night. He was a happy human last night. For Zach Puplis, I am Adam Karnick. Together, we are the Neutral Zone. Next week, we're up in the air a little bit. If this series is a sweep, we will be on same time, regular time, Tuesday night. If there is a Game 5, we will not be on Tuesday night because our show will be right in the middle of the game. So follow along with us at IESR Neutral Zone, at IE Sports Radio on Twitter. We'll keep you posted. We'll let you know when next we'll be on. I would be surprised if we're on next Tuesday, but at the same time, sweeps are hard. Until then, though, he is Zach, I am Adam. Together, we are the Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio. Zach, you do this so much better than I. Close us out, my man.
Stay out of the penalty box. Go get checked into the boards. Check your 5 volts and light the lamp.
We'll see you next week, everybody.